Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts on William Shatner saying that Gene Roddenberry would have turned over in his grave if, he was alive today to watch the new Trek, CBS Paramount Trek. And, I remember when he said that online, like I think it was probably what, 2 days ago, the internet just like blew up and everything. And reading some of the comments are very, very, very intriguing, to say the least. It's to the point where people either agree with him full-heartedly, or they are just trashing him profusely online and everything. Like they have literally turned their back on Captain Kirk and everything, or William Shatner, I should say. And a lot of them like accounts, like they look legit and everything. It's just people really have turned their back on like William Shatner, all because of that comment and stuff. And like, and then of course you got some people who are kind of like in the middle, who are kind of like, well, he has a point, and then they give examples and stuff like that. And I gotta say, man, like, it's interesting when fans turn their back on him. I mean, if you're gonna turn your back on a celebrity, my opinion is, I've done that before, but I've turned my back on a celebrity, is if you're gonna turn your back on them, you need to have a really good concrete reason as to why you turn your back on them. Like, it has to be major. It just can't be because, oh, you like this show and somebody trashed that show. Then you're just sounding like a little fanboy, fangirl and stuff like that, who having your feelings hurt and everything. Because I know, like, people have literally turned their back on both Patrick Stewart and Jean-Luc Picard, all because they don't like Star Trek Picard, the first two seasons and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, are you kidding me? Like people have literally trashed Patrick Stewart, calling him old, making fun of his voice, all because they don't like the show. But that has nothing to do with him. And so, like, if you're gonna turn your back on somebody, my suggestion is you gotta have a good concrete reason as to that. Now, I like Captain Kirk. I'm not a huge William Shatner fan. Now, if you think this video is going to be me trashing William Shatner, you're on the wrong video. But if you think that this video is going to be me screaming the word woke and diverse and agenda, this and that, then once again, you are on the wrong video. See, I am merely here to be kind of like a little buffer in between, like somebody who's gonna lay down the facts as to what Gene Roddenberry actually liked and did not like about Star Trek. Because if you are a true diehard Trekkie, which I am, then you have done your research, you have read the articles, you have watched the videos, countless of them, of how Gene Roddenberry viewed Star Trek and what he wanted, and how the creators either gave him what he wanted or did not, and stuff like that. Because here's the thing about this. It's not just new Trek that Gene Roddenberry would have been pissed about. It's actually all of Star Trek, even the older stuff. DS9 especially, but he had problems even with that of Next Generation and a lot of the Star Trek movies and stuff, not to mention the animated series. And so, so here's the question. Is William Shatner right or wrong? Would Gene Roddenberry turn over in his grave? The answer to that would be yes and no. Because, see, even I have said something similar to that in the past and everything. Because, like I said, I have researched, that man and what he liked and stuff like that. And when you look at a lot of stuff that happens in Star Trek, he would not be very pleased with that. Whether it's new Trek or old Trek. But especially new Trek and everything. And so, because when it comes to new Trek, you're either one of the following people. You either love it, you hate it, you used to hate it, now you like it. You don't like it, but you still watch it because it has the name Star Trek in it. Or it's kind of like you're somewhere in kind of like the middle where it's like, okay, it's like it's bad, but there's some cool things about it and everything. And if you ever watch any of my past videos, and you know exactly how I feel about like old Trek and new Trek and everything, and where I stand on that. But like when it comes to William Shatner, a lot of people, and I can understand this, a lot of people feel like he's just being angry and bitter and this and that. And the reason for that is because, well, if you ever looked at his Twitter, he's basically falls under this category. He's an older actor who discovered social media. So that basically means he just says whatever he wants and he doesn't care what people think. He's venting left and right, and it pisses a lot of people off. So a lot of people feel like he's just acting out of malice and everything. And some people just think, he's just plain bitter and everything. Now, unlike Gina Carano, William Shatner will clap back. Now, see, she will run off the mouth and she will block you if you don't agree with her. But William old Willie boy, he will clap back at your behind. He don't care if you a hardcore Star Trek fan, a fake Star Trek fan, a kind of Star Trek fan. If you come after him, he will go after you, and sometimes he will go after you by misunderstanding something, like he did this one YouTube channel. I think they're called Red Media Band or something like that. They do things like half in the bag and stuff, and it was a really interesting video I watched of theirs, where it's like 24 minutes long, I think. And they pretty much talk about how they was in a one-man feud with William Shatner. And William was the one initiating the feud. Because they didn't understand why he was pissed at them. Because I think they said one thing he didn't agree with, and William just went to town on them. And stuff. And he kept like persisting over and over and over. And then they were just kind of like, look, man. Because you could tell on their expressions, they did not want to get into a fight with him. Not because, he's clapping back and all this other stuff and accusing them, but because they are a fan of the man. They're huge Star Trek fans. They love TOS. And, they love Captain Kirk. And I'm pretty sure they were probably butthurt when their hero was like, trashing them online and stuff like that. And that's one reason why some people are trashing William right now, is because he has that controversial side to him and everything. Now, there's a lot of Star Trek people I follow. I don't follow him because of some controversial rumblings I've heard in the past. Like, the main one is the dude who plays Sulu. Like, why in the world is George Takei, like, he hates William Shatner to death. And I mean, he hates that man. And William's all like, he doesn't understand why. And so, like, and it's just like, there has to be a reason. Like, there has to be a huge reason why George does not like him. And one of the reasons, because he said William always try to get the last word in on the show, but I think it's way beyond that. And the only reason why George won't come out and say why is because he knows that he has his fan base, but Kirk has a bigger fan base. And people aren't going to want to believe that. Like, there are some people saying now, they don't care what William says. They're still going to be a fan of his and stuff. And, there was some other rumblings I've heard back on production set when it came to that Lena Nimoy and like, some other stuff, especially that animated series. But the biggest thing was that segment I saw of him on, like, Inside Edition, when it came to his estranged son out of wedlock and everything. I could not believe what William was saying and everything. I'm just like, dude, you sound like a deadbeat father and stuff. And, and that would kind of made me start to think with that and the whole George thing, maybe there's more to him that meets the eye and everything, But let's get to Gene Roddenberry. Because I've been talking for like, 10 minutes now, and I haven't even gotten to that. And so, like, William said, he's known the man really good for like 3 years and stuff. They worked on the original series. They worked on the animated, I know they worked on like the movies and stuff like that, right? And so he knew that man. And it's true. If he worked with this man really good, because, think about Gene. Gene was passionate. He was extremely passionate about Star Trek. That was like, yeah, he had his own kid, but that was his child. You know what I'm saying? And when people didn't like Star Trek and had it canceled, that hurt that man. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah. Now, his comments on Star Wars, I'm not going to get into that, although it's funny and stuff. And so, like, Gene envisioned a perfect utopia when it came to Star Trek. There was no more war. There was no more like disease. There, people wasn't on drugs. Everybody got along. Humanity evolved to a place that it will never get to in the real world. Because look at the world now; it sucks and everything. And so like his embodiment, his vision of Star Trek was perfection. Humans were perfect. It was the aliens that were the bad people and stuff. And and even when doing the original series, like people like writers and executive producers and all this, they're all like, that's not gonna work out for TV. Like, people are not perfect and everything, but he would not budge and everything. And it took a lot for him to budge. He was very stubborn and everything. Like, if you're a Star Trek fan, then you have heard of the Star Trek Bible. It's thick, it's very worded, and it's what Gene Roddenberry wants out of Star Trek and everything. And and man, the people who worked on Star Trek, especially Deep Space Nine, they all like, they can't abide by this. Like, it's just like, it's ridiculous because people have flaws. That would make for good storytelling and stuff. But he didn't want that and everything. And so, like, yeah, if he would have watched new Star Trek today with humanity cussing all the time on the show, and like Raffi getting like drunk and high and everything, her living in a trailer, people of Earth turning against one another and everything, Star Trek Picard, where like the whole Romulan thing happened, and they and the whole shipyard got taken over by like the androids, and they all blamed him, and he had to resign his commission, and as a result they fired Raffi just because she was his number one and everything. He would not have liked that because it's not in his vision of a perfect utopia and everything. So that makes sense when William Shatner says, he would not have like new Star Trek. New Star Trek is very dark. It's very brutal. It's very gritty. Humans are acting like dictators and stuff on the show, especially that in Starfleet. I mean, just look at Discovery, for crying out loud. In Discovery, like, the first season, so many, you have one woman, Michael Burnham, who turned against her captain and committed mutiny, started a war. Every time somebody on like Discovery or the other ship, the Shinjo, whatever it's called, I forgot what it's called, they were like bumping into each other, giving each other, like calling each other names, like giving each other dirty looks, just being rude to people and stuff. And that is not what he envisioned, because the people of Starfleet are supposed to be better than that. Humans are supposed to be better than that. He also would not have liked that Star Trek is a military. And that's something that's been debated a long time ago. Are Starfleet officers scientists, astronauts, or are they military? Well, if you look at everything, they look very military. The suits, the rankings, the names of like certain features on the ship, and them having weapons and everything, and them protecting people. It looks very military. But Gene has said a million times over and over, Starfleet is not a military, but it is a military, when you look at all these other Star Trek shows. So of course he would not be happy about that. And um and there are other little things that he would not have approved of, like take phasers for example. He never wanted a phaser to look like a gun pistol because he wanted it to look futuristic. Now, on the original series, it looked like that of a gun. And, because they couldn't really do that much with props and vision type stuff. So he had to, grind his teeth at that, but he didn't like that. And so then when it got to Next Generation, that's when we started seeing the, remote control wand type phasers and stuff. And because that's what he wanted. He never wanted them to look like a gun. But now, and I'll get to Voyager the 29th century, but now in every new Star Trek show, whether it's in the past with Discovery or in the future in the 30th century with Discovery or Star Trek Picard, every time you see a phaser, it is now in the gun shape. And he did not want that in everything. And the question is, why? Why in Star Trek Picard is it a gun? Like, we know why in Discovery, because it was like centuries ago. But why in Star Trek Picard is it that way and everything? That makes absolutely no sense and everything. And they did that just so, I don't know why. But he, like I said before, he was very, very meticulous on how Star Trek should look. Like, take the uniforms of Next Generation. He did not want wrinkles whatsoever. Those outfits were so tight, so stiff, it gave Patrick Stewart back issues and stuff. That's how meticulous he was when it came to that. And of course, when there was a wrinkle, of course he got upset and stuff, And so when it comes to what is it? The suits in general, he wanted casual wear. That's why in the original series they looked like sweaters and everything. They didn't look like a military whatsoever. They didn't even look like science officers. They looked like they were wearing sweaters, and he did not like that. And so, they looked like they was wearing sweaters, and that's what he wanted, casual wear. And of course, as you look at Starfleet uniforms now, they're very stylized and stuff. And, when it comes back to the darkness and the grittiness of it all, then you have things like in Discovery, where, remember that Klingon woman, she made a baby with that dude, and she chopped the head off, and all you saw was the head in her hand, a baby head in her hand. That's not Star Trek. That's very gruesome and stuff. And he would not have been okay with that and everything. And, so there is some truth to what William Shatner is saying. He would not have approved of a lot of the dark and gritty stuff that has happened in Star Trek. What is it? He probably would have been okay with the whole Star Trek Picard season 2 when it went back in the past, and the whole ice situation and pollution, because that was back in the old days before humanity evolved and stuff. So something like that he would have given a pass to, you know what I'm saying? But things like people going after revenge, take 7 of 9 in Star Trek Picard season 1. 7 of 9, I've mentioned this before. She is not that same character she was on Voyager. All she wants is revenge. All she does is when you do her wrong, she murders you. She shoots you with a phaser. She beats you up. She will literally kill you. And that's all she did in season 1 of Picard. And then in season 2 of Picard, she's still shooting people and everything. And it's just kind of she hasn't evolved. And she was Borg. She should know better. And she was on Voyager. And, she should really know better. Now, of course, in the Voyager 29th century, they went back to a pistol-shaped phaser. But that was far in the future. And that was mostly a once or twice type thing. People didn't think that would ever come back. So then, of course, in the 31st century, it's kind of why did they go back to the whole pistol-shaped thing? Anyway, then you got Raffi and everything. Raffi is not Star Trek material. She's poor, and there's not supposed to be any poor people on Earth. she's an alcoholic. She does drugs. She neglects her son. Yeah, she has a son and everything. And none of that stuff would have been okay with Gene Roddenberry and stuff. And so, like, she is the very opposite of what he envisioned for, like, humanity and stuff. I mean, the man was so into perfection that, like, in Next Generation, the first season, remember the operation in stations? Remember how lean back the chairs were? And it's just kind of like, that's weird. Why would you lean back to where you're relaxing, but you're supposed to be looking at your monitor and tapping at it? And that's because he envisioned in a perfect world where you could like lean back like that and still do everything the way you need to do and stuff like that. That's why a lot of his monitors didn't have words on them, just like blocks and pictures and stuff like that. But in later seasons and later movies, they started having words everywhere. Because people's all like, well, what does this stuff mean on the screens? Because nobody knew. But see, they had evolved to a point where they didn't need words and stuff. And so, and then you have Lower Decks. Let's just get into that right now. Lower Decks is like basically it's Family Guy on Star Trek and everything. It's more Family Guy than the Orville and everything. He would have never, ever, ever been okay with all that silly humor that is in Lower Decks. Now Prodigy, I don't know, and I'll get to that for a reason why later. But yeah, all that crazy slapstick humor, how stupid they act in Starfleet, he would have never been okay with that, and you know he wouldn't. So all these people who are getting mad at William Shatner for saying things like that, are you sure you're a hardcore Star Trek fan? Are you sure you know what Gene liked and everything? Because if you did, then you would know that he would not have been okay with that and stuff. And, you know, when it comes to Star Trek and him not liking stuff, it's beyond that of New Trek. It's old Trek as well, because he was very pissy about things. He did not like the Wrath of Khan because it dealt with revenge, and humans are supposed to evolve from that. He did not like the animated series back in the 70s. I forget the reason why, but he wanted his name taken off that and stuff. He was very pissed at that show. The movie where William Shatner directed, the one with Spock's brother and all that religion stuff, he hated that movie because of all the religion and everything. And plus they introduced Spock's brother, and Spock, people didn't even know he had one and stuff. Then we get over to TNG, and he fought tooth and nails with all those people over there because he wanted Star Trek, like I said before, to look a certain way. And he took his little red pen out and, you know, went all over the scripts in season 1. Is why, you know, like it was the way it kind of was. And season 1 just isn't that great because nobody is that perfect. But even though he had his red pen and stuff, they still had to, like, you know, squeeze things in he didn't like and stuff. And so, like, when he died, sadly, like, I remember, like, you know, listening to this on audio commentary. I remember reading this online and stuff, because I love researching episodes of Star Trek. You know, I go to, like, that Alpha, whatever that thing, site, fandom, wiki thing, and I love reading behind the scenes on, like, episodes and stuff. And it's like, the moment he died, that's when all those producers in Star Trek are like, all right, let's do our own thing now, and let's get away from Gene Roddenberry's vision. And it slowly has been doing that ever since TNG when he died. Because remember that episode where Picard was looking for something, and then people thought he died because he got hit with a phaser, but it was more like a transporter type phaser. And so Riker and all them went looking for him, and Riker got kidnapped, and then he realized, oh wait, Picard is alive. And it was like that band of like space pirates and stuff, and Data had to like take over the Enterprise, and Worf was his first officer, even though Geordi ranked higher than him, but Worf had bridge experience. And then Worf and Data clashed with each other because he didn't like how Worf kept, like, you know, blurting out stuff and getting mad at him and everything when he would give a command. And then remember when they found Riker and Picard, And he told them, like, I'm technically dead, so I'm finna go to sleep. And Riker, you're like a fugitive, so Mr. Data, take him to the brig. And Data literally took him to the brig and everything. Remember that episode? I read online Gene would have hated that episode because of one thing and one thing only: space pirates. And he did not like space pirates at all. And then you have to remember everything that came with Deep Space Nine, the first dark Star Trek series. That went against all his rules because I remember the guys that created that show, they literally have went on video and said that Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek is ridiculous, and they was not going to like go along with it and stuff because it's not realistic and people won't be able to relate to that. So they changed everything. They put the Starfleet crew on a space station. Gene didn't like that because he felt people should be exploring space in the ship. It dealt with terrorism, like Major Kira was a terrorist and everything. It dealt with religion, and that's something he was very adamant about by not having it on his show, at least when it came to humans, because he felt humans had evolved past religion and saw technology being the driving force of the world and everything. He would not have liked that. He would not have liked Benjamin Sisko being the emissary and everything like that. He would have hated Quark and everything. And it's just like little things like that would have drove him mad and everything if he was alive and watching Deep Space Nine. See, it's not even just new Trek, it's old Trek as well. He would not have been okay with Tom Paris being like a fugitive and all this other crap. And the Maquis, oh, he would have hated them and everything. And then we get to like Star Trek Enterprise, where they started changing like the Vulcans a little bit and everything. And then not only that, but remember that episode where after 9/11, they had that alien, the Xindi people attack Earth. He would not have been okay with that because it was a revenge story after that and stuff like that. And he just would not have liked that type of stuff. He would not have liked First Contact with Picard going out for revenge. He probably would not have liked Nemesis either and everything. And and then when it comes to new Trek, well, it's all action packed, so he wouldn't have liked that and everything. And so when it comes to William Shatner, he has a legit point. You have to know Gene Roddenberry. You have to know what he likes and he doesn't like and everything. And yeah, a lot of new Star Trek. There's a reason why people complain. Some people go a little overboard, and we all know those channels. But because they're the ones who are like, oh, woke this, and oh, another woman on the bridge. Not them people. Not them. But a lot of stuff in new Trek, he would not be happy with that. So I don't understand why people are arguing online if they're so-called Star Trek fans and everything. Now, there's probably another reason why William has said what he said. It is because Shatner is upset at the people at Paramount and CBS. Why? Because ever since the 2009 Star Trek movie, he has not been asked back to return, and he has adamantly been campaigning to come back. All for like J.J. Abrams and everybody else to be all like, dude, you died in Generations, you can't come back. But technically he should, because think about it. J.J. has now said, he didn't say this years ago, but he is now saying it's an alternate universe. If it's an alternate universe, then that Kirk probably didn't die the same way he did before. And so technically he can be brought back and everything. Because as for the original timeline, that's just in the TV shows, and you see they keep changing everything with that. And so whatchamacallit? So I think he's really pissed at them because, when it comes to older Star Trek actors and actresses, have you noticed something? They keep their mouth shut about new Star Trek. they don't say a word. And the ones that do talk about it are the ones that's been brought back for all these newer series, either to direct or to have a guest appearance or something like that. And so the ones that keep their mouths shut, they probably don't want to get into the mix of all this argument type stuff. And they probably keep their mouths shut because they're hoping to be brought back. And of course, we know why the people who praise it, that's former Star Trek stars, because they want to be brought back. I mean, look at Kate Mulgrew and everything. Years ago, I saw on YouTube, she was doing an interview and she was talking about Star Trek Voyager. Somebody asked her, have you seen any of the new Star Trek series? And she said, no. This is before she was in Prodigy. And she said, no, she has not watched any of them. And she asked, are they any good? And you hear the audience have a mixed reaction. A whole lot of people was groaning and they're all like, it ain't what it used to be. And she's all like, oh, well, that's a shame and everything. Now look what happened. Many years later, she is now one of the stars on a new Star Trek series on Prodigy and everything. And, you know, I bet she is keeping her mouth shut so she won't have to get fired and everything, you know? And of course, Will Wheaton, he's been loving the new Star Trek ever since like the 2009 movie. And he's been praising it so much that now he's doing the whole Ready Room session type things. And he even had a guest appearance on Picard season 2 that made no sense. And everything, you know? And so, like, yeah, I just think that's another reason why Shatner's pissed, because he has not been asked back, and he has literally asked. And the fact that they can't even bring him back, because if it's an alternate reality, not an alternate time, a timeline where they can reset time and then, you know, just go back to normal stuff. This is a whole different parallel universe and stuff. So why haven't they brought him back? See, something had to have happened years ago between him and the people at Star Trek that probably broke down communications and stuff. Maybe it's the stuff he says on Twitter. Maybe it's not. Maybe he's rubbed some people the wrong way, like George and all them other people and stuff. Who knows, you know what I'm saying? But I do agree to a point to what he says, that Gene would have literally turned in his grave with new Star Trek, only because of how new Star Trek is. I mean, look at the character of Wesley Crusher. Well, a lot of people don't know is that Gene Roddenberry loved that character. He loved him so much, it broke down the communications with his real son, because he thought Gene liked Will Wheaton more than he liked him. And there was a reason why Gene loved that character so much. He based him off himself. See, Wesley Crusher was a child prodigy. For the most of season 1 and even some of season 2, he was pretty much saving the day and figuring stuff out because he was so smart. And Gene saw himself as that, a brilliant intellectual type man. But then when the fans started to hate Wesley and found him to be annoying and everything, Gene took that very personally, like an attack on himself, because he literally embodied himself on that character and stuff. So yes, Gene took Star Trek extremely serious. And if you change one thing he didn't like, well then yeah, he would have been pissed. Alrighty, well I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.